I demand a trial by combat.
This is Let's Get Litty Read Along, GOT edition. Escape into the land of Westeros each week as we travel through the Seven Kingdoms. Which house will prevail and rule the Iron Throne, or gain its independence? Is a bigger evil really lurking beyond the wall? With decade-long summers and even longer winters, grab your favorite drink, sit back, and relax because reading is coming.
Mother effer. All right, this is already off to a fantastic start. Can't stay in focus. Can't get good lighting. Probably can't even read. Okay. We did not have an episode last week because this is quite literally, no, it's not literally, but this has been not a great couple weeks. So, yeah, we're here, ready to read. That's all I got for today. We're coming in hot with some sweet tea, the best sweet tea besides McDonald's. If you don't want a heart attack from McDonald's, this is a good thing. So, this is what we're gonna call our depressed girl episode because we're not energetic. We're not enthusiastic. What the fuck is that? We're not easily impressed. So, let's just get into it. Next week, we'll be back full of life and energy. Listen, y'all, we're almost through dance. 2 more weeks, and then 3 more for soccer, and then it's summer, and we're gonna have hot girl summer, pink girl summer, fun girl summer. We're just gonna have a good 2024. It's almost Leo season. It's my time to shine. I'm gonna be 30, flirty, and thriving. So currently 29, not doing fine. Something else bad that rhymes with fine. Jumping on in with good old Brownie boy. It seemed as though he had been falling for years. Fly, a voice whispered into the darkness, but Bran did not know how to fly, so all he could do was fall. Maester Luwin made a little boy of clay, baked him till he was hard and brittle, dressed him in Bran's clothes, and flung him off the roof. Bran remembered the way he shattered. But I never fall, he said, falling. The ground was so far below him he could barely make it out through the gray mist that whirled around him, but he could feel how fast he was falling, and he knew what was waiting for him down there. Even in the dreams, you could not fall forever. He could wake up in he could wake up in the instant before he hit the ground, he knew. You always woke up in the instant before you hit the ground. And if you don't? The voice asked. The ground was closer now, still far away, 1,000 miles away, but closer than it had been. It was cold here in the darkness. There was no sun, no stars, only the ground below, coming up to smash him, and the gray mist and the whispering voice. He wanted to cry. Not cry, fly. I can't fly, Bron said. I can't. How do you know? Have you ever tried? The voice was high and thin. Bran looked around to see where it was coming from. A crow was spiraling down with him, just out of reach, following him as he fell. Help me, he said. I'm trying, the crow replied. Say, got any corn? Bran reached into his pocket at the darkness spun dizzily around him. When he pulled his hand out, golden kernels slid from between his fingers into the air. They fell with him. The crow landed on his hand and began to eat. Are you really a crow? Bran asked. Are you really falling? The crow asked back. It's just a dream, Bran said. Is it? The crow asked the crow. I'll wake up when I hit the ground, Bran told the bird. You'll die when you hit the ground, the crow said. It went back to eating the corn. Bran looked down. He could see the mountains now, their peaks white with snow and the silver thread of rivers and dark woods. He closed his eyes and began to cry. That won't do any good, the crow said. I told you, the answer is flying, not crying. How hard can it be? I'm doing it. The crow took to the air and flopped around Bran's hand. You have wings, Bran pointed out. Maybe you do too. Bran fell along his shoulders, groping for feathers. There are different kind of wings, the crow said. Bran was staring at his arms, his legs. He was so skinny, skin just stretched taut over bones. Had he always been so thin? He tried to remember. A face swam up at him out of the ooh. A face swam up at him out of the gray mist, shining with light, golden. The things I do for love, it said. Bran screamed. The crow took to the air, calling, Not that, it shrieked at him. Forget that, you do not need it now. Put it aside, put it away. It landed on Bran's shoulder and pecked at him, and the shining golden face was gone. Bran was falling faster than ever. The gray mist howled around him as he plunged toward the earth below. What are you doing to me? He asked the crow, tearful. Teaching you how to fly. I can't fly. You're flying right now. I'm falling. Every flight begins with a fall, the crow said. Look down. I'm afraid. Look down. Bran looked and felt his insides turn to water. The ground was rushing at him now. The whole world was spread out below him, a tapestry of white and brown and green. He could see everything so clearly that for a moment he forgot to be afraid. He could see the whole realm and everyone in it. He saw Winterfell as the eagles see it, the tall towers looking squat and stubby from above, the castle walls just lined in dirt. He saw Maester Lewin on his balcony studying the sky through a polished bronze tube and frowning as he made notes in the book. He saw his brother Robb, taller and stronger than he remembered him, practicing swordplay in the yard with real steel in his hand. He saw Hodor, the simple giant from the stables, carrying a bale to Micken's forge, hefting it onto his shoulder as easily as another man might heft a bale of hay. At the heart of the godswood, the great white weirwood brooded over its reflection in the black pool, its leaves rustling in a chill wind. When it felt Bronn watching, it lifted its eyes from the still waters and stared back at him knowingly. He looked east and saw a galley racing across the waters of the Bight. He saw his mother sitting alone in the cabin, looking at the blood-stained knife on the table in front of her. As the rowers pulled at their oars, Sir Roderick leaned across the rail, shaking and heaving. A storm was gathering ahead of them, a vast dark roaring lashed by lightning, but somehow they could not see it. He looked south and saw the green-blue rush of the Trident. He saw his father pleading with the king, his face etched with grief. He saw Sansa crying herself to sleep at night, and he saw Arya watching in silence and holding her secrets hard in her heart. There were shadows all around them. One shadow was dark as ash, with the terrible face of a hound. Another was armored like sun, golden and beautiful. Over them both loomed a giant in armor made of stone, but when he opened his visor, there was nothing inside but darkness and thick black blood. He lifted his eyes and saw clear across the narrow sea to the free cities and the green Dothraki sea and beyond, to vast Dothraki under its mountain, to the fabled lands of the Jade Sea, to a sigh by the shadow where the dragon stirred beneath the sunrise. Finally, he looked north. He saw the wall shining like blue crystal, and his bastard brother Jon sleeping alone on a cold bed, his skin growing pale and hard as the memory of all the warmth fled from him. And he looked past the wall, past the endless forest cloaked in snow, past the frozen shore and the great blue white rivers of ice and the dead plains where nothing grew or lived. North and north and north he looked to the curtain of light, and at the end of the world, and then beyond that curtain, he looked deep into the heart of winter, and then he cried out, afraid, and the heat of his tears burned on his cheeks. Now you know, the crow whispered as it sat on his shoulder. Now you know why you must live. Why? Bran said, not understanding, falling. Because winter is coming. Bran looked at the crow on his shoulder, and the crow looked back. It had 3 eyes, and a third eye was full of terrible knowledge. Bran looked down. There was nothing below him now but the snow and the cold and death, a frozen wasteland where jagged blue white spires of ice waited to embrace him. They flew up at him like spears. He saw the bones of 1,000 other dreamers impaled upon their points. He was desperately afraid. Can a man still be brave if he is afraid? He heard his own voice saying, small and far away. And his father's voice replied to him, that is the only time a man can be brave. Now Bran, the crow, urged to choose, fly or die. Death reached for him, screaming. Bran spread his arms and flew. Wings unseen drank the wind and filled and pulled him upward. The terrible needles of ice receded below him. The sky opened up above. Bran soared. It was better than climbing. It was better than anything. The world grew smaller beneath him. I'm flying, he cried out in delight. I've noticed, said the three-eyed crow. It took to the air, flapping its wings in his face, slowing him, blinding him. He faltered in the air as its pinions beat against his cheeks. Its beak stabbed at him fiercely, and Bran felt a sudden, blinding pain in the middle of his forehead between his eyes. What are you doing? He shrieked. The crow opened its beak and called at him, a shrill scream of fear, and the gray mist shuddered and swirled around him and ripped away like a veil. And he saw that the crow was really a woman, a serving woman with long black hair, and he knew her from somewhere. From Winterfell. Yes, that was it. He remembered her now. And then he realized that he was in Winterfell, in a bed, in a bed high in some chilly tower room, and the black-haired woman dropped a basin of water to shatter on the floor and ran down the steps shouting, He's awake! He's awake! He's awake! Bran touched his forehead between his eyes. The place where the crow had pecked him was still burning, but there was nothing there, no blood, no wound. He felt weak and dizzy. He tried to get out of bed, but nothing happened. And then there was movement beside the bed, and something landed lightly on his legs. He felt nothing. A pair of yellow eyes looked into his own, shining like the sun. The window was open, and it was cold in the room, but the warmth that came off the wolf enfolded him like a hot bath. His pup, Bran realized. Or was it? He was so big now. He reached out to pet him, his hand trembling like a leaf. When his brother Robb burst into the room breathless from his dash up the tower steps, the dire wolf was licking Bran's face. Bran looked up calmly. His name is Summer, he said. Moving on to Catelyn Stark. We will make King's Landing within the hour. Catelyn turned away from the rail and forced herself to smile. Your oarmen have done well by us, Captain. Each one of them shall have a silver stag as a token of my gratitude. Captain Moreo Tamitis favored her with a half bow. You are far too generous, Lady Stark. The honor of carrying a great lady like yourself is all the reward they need. But they'll take the silver anyway. Moreo smiled. As you say. He spoke the common tongue fluently, with only the slightest hint of a Texrashi accent. He had been flying the narrow sea for 30 years, he told her, as an oarman, quartermaster, and finally captain of his own trading galleys. The Storm Dancer, he was fourth ship and his fastest, a two-masted galley of 60 oars. She had certainly been the fastest of the ships available in White Harbor when Catelyn and Sir Roderick Cassel had arrived after their headlong gallop downriver. The Tyroshi were notorious for their avarice, and Sir Roderick had argued for hiring a fishing sloop out of the three sisters, but Catelyn had insisted on the galley. It was a it was good that she had. The winds had been against them much of the voyage, and without the galley's oars, they'd still be beating their way past the Fingers instead of skimming toward King's Landing and Journey's End. So close, she thought. Beneath the linen badges, her fingers were still throbbed where the dagger had bitten. The pain was her scourge, Catelyn felt, lest she forget. She could not bend the last two fingers on her left hand, and the others would never again be dexterous. Yet, that was a small enough price to pay for Bran's life. Sir Roger chose that moment to appear on deck. "My good friend," said Morio through his forked green beard. The Tyroshi loved bright colors, even in their facial hair. "It is so fine to see you looking better." "Yes, Sir Roderick agreed. I haven't wanted to die for almost 2 days now." He bowed to Catelyn. "My lady." He was looking better. A shade thinner than he had been. So, I didn't realize it was 9. So we are still gonna keep this a 2 episode nope, a 2 chapter episode, mates. But we're gonna do a split recording day, so when I come back, it's gonna be a different fit change unless I'm feeling lazy and keeping the same clothes on you know, mate. So in the count of 5, 4, no, I'm gonna do a countdown, and when we reach 1, Shibuya, I'm gonna be back, ready to roll, and we're gonna finish the chapter, maybe another one. And you're just gonna pretend like the outfit change never happened. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Shibuya. Just jumping in here because we came back with a completely different vibe tonight. So this is going to be the end of this episode, but I'm posting 2, so just go ahead and flip to the next, and we'll continue on with Catelyn and Johnny Boy, and the next episode's going to be a little bit extra lit, so jump on over. Thanks for listening.